there are a lot of people that believe that Deebo Samuel was showcasing himself at the end of the year. Didn't play against the Cardinals, but was definitely like, look, my year's over. You're probably going to cut me in the offseason anyways. I'm going to go showcase myself for a week or so. Then I'm going to take the rest of the year off and say, hey, the last you saw of me was really good. I can still contribute to your offense. You mentioned Tim Kawakami, though, and he had a really big report that came out today, albeit, really isn't anything new per se, but it does give the insight into maybe how the Niners want to spend or will spend this offseason. A lot of conversation stemming around Brock Purdy's new contract, but he seemed to kind of signify a shift inside the organization. No longer are they going to accept, high-paid contracts with players that are underperforming. Deebo Samuel being one of the bigger ones in recent years to do so. 3 years, $71 million contract, and really outside of a 6 to 8 game stretch in 2023, never really lived up to that. Didn't play much in the playoffs, didn't do much for them when they were in the Super Bowl. And I quote here because he talks about Brandon Ayuk being a regret of the San Francisco 49ers, who they paid $30 million per year last offseason too. We know here we detailed every single thing they went through, the trade requests, the social media posts, the hold-ins, the holdouts. He had the sweatpants gate with Kyle Shanahan during training camp or during preseason.
Oh God, remember that?
There was so much going on with Ayuk, and he seemingly rubbed the team the wrong way. But also, Tim Kawakami mentions Nick Bosa's contract of a contract this team may, I guess, somewhat regret because of how high the cap hit and guarantees were. But to read you what Kawakami quoted here, he states, I know that there is still frustration about the way Brandon Ayuk handled his bitter negotiations last summer, and that members of the Niners front office were never thrilled about giving him a $30 million a year deal on the eve of the regular season. I'll tell you this, it's a really bad look for a team that is going to watch Deebo Samuel, who his 3-year contract is overall not great, kind of a bust, if you will. Then to say the next day or in the same summer or same offseason, like, yeah, we kind of didn't want to pay Brandon Ayuk either. Like, that's a really bad look for a front office, right? Like, how is that not?
But the way it was handled as well, the fact that it went so long, right up to the beginning of the season, it took forever to get this deal done. And then they were like, okay, we'll tell you what, why don't you go seek a trade? And then every team he found, they were like, well, we're not going to extend the guy. Well, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. It's kind of like, look, the whole point of it was for you to go seek a trade. Now, granted, if he wasn't going to sign an extension, the Browns weren't going to trade for him. If these other teams like the Patriots or whatnot, if they wanted to trade for him and he wasn't going to sign an extension, they weren't going to trade for him. They're like, forget it. And so that's where he kind of had his own leverage. Like, well, I don't want to go there because I'm not going to sign there. Then it was like, what are you doing? And then the fact that Ayuk even admitted, like, yeah, I probably put, stretched out a little too long or whatnot. I was like, bro, come on. Why would you even say that? At this point, just show up and freaking get to work. And we saw, look, he showed up. He was not in football shape. He did not look the same whatsoever. He looked like a shell of himself. He cut his hair, so that looked even weird. It was like, oh my God, what is happening to Brandon Ayuk? And all the while, Deebo Samuel was there, and at first, he was looking pretty good too. But he started to fall apart as the season went on. And look, I think that when it comes to the Niners, this was an awakening for them because I felt like they were under the impression that, hey, look, we'll get these guys in. Once we get them in, they know what to do. They're professionals. We'll be fine. And it wasn't. Trent Williams did not look the same. Aaron Banks, he wasn't part of this conversation, but he looked terrible. I just want to throw it out there. Brandon Ayuk did not look the same.
He's at Aaron Banks, an impending free agent.
and then, like, Brandon Ayuk is, like, dropping passes. I'm just like, oh, my gosh. It was just unbelievable the amount of the lack of production we were getting out of Brandon Ayuk. And I feel like the 49ers front office didn't do a good job at getting these contracts done early and getting them in, especially to miss OTAs, to miss minicamp when you're putting in all the new plays, all the new offensive designs. They weren't even there. They just had to read about it or be there during the lecture, but not actually run around and run these routes and understand, how they're played. And one of the things that we saw last season was that, and this is not just from Brandon Ayuk, but we saw from Deebo Samuel as well, was their route running was awful last season. There were so many routes that they ran not to the efficient level that they had ran in previous years. And it showed. The timing was way off. And what do you have? You have Brock Purdy, who's a timing quarterback. And if your timing is off, then it's going to affect him dramatically. And so they need to learn from last season and get these contracts done at a much faster rate, especially when it comes to, Brock Purdy, whose contract's coming up real soon.
Well, the way I kind of read into what Kawakami was stating here, while yes, everything you said is true, having Ayuk on the field in training camp and OTAs and preseason would undoubtedly helped the chemistry, and maybe he doesn't get hurt. Who knows? However, the way I read this was there's going to be a shift into how they do future contracts. They're tired of losing. You read what Kawakami states about Nick Bosa, which I think Nick Bosa overwhelmingly deserved to get paid. Defensive Player of the Year, one of the best edge rushers in the entire league. He's a player that you point to and say, go win me a football game, and usually can get it done, albeit at times there has been some inconsistencies. But Kawakami states this: for a team that absolutely hates setting contract precedents, the Niners probably don't feel great in retrospect for buckling and giving Nick Bosa $34 million a year and $120 guaranteed, which still lands as the highest salary and most guaranteed money in the league amongst defensive players. When I hear that, and this really isn't an indictment on Nick Bosa, but when I kind of match that with the Ayuk quota of like they're kind of resentful, they're irritated, they didn't handle things correctly, albeit San Francisco deserves a lot of blame in that because they didn't get the job done early. When I hear that, I go, well, what's going to happen with Brock Purdy? How are they going to handle a George Kittle extension? What about Fred Warner? What about Dre Greenlaw? What about when these younger free agents or these younger draft picks, Pearsall, Mustafa, Garendo, all these guys, albeit it's far in the future, Dominic Pooney, when those guys are up for new deals, how are they going to handle these things? Are they going to get fickle and penny pinch even more and carry these things out longer? Or can you view Diamador Lenore's mid-season extension as maybe San Francisco becomes more proactive in signing their stars, hoping to get them on cheaper contracts and avoid the entire free agency process?
Well, I think they're learning. Look, early on in this regime, the Lynch and Shanahan regime, the team was not very good. The team sucked really bad. And remember, I think their first offseason, they signed like 6 free agents, and they were like, yeah, and they still sucked. And so as they started to draft, better and better players and get younger and get more talent, and now they're starting to deal with, the growing pains of, okay, now we got to pay these guys. And so I honestly think that last season they thought, hey, look, hey, what's up? They thought, hey, look, if we just get these guys in here, they know what to do. They're professionals. They've been in the system. That's great. But they're learning now, okay, look, we can't be that naive anymore. We need to make sure that we're locking up these guys to the deals that we want them at and doing it at an efficient rate. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more of this content, then check out some of these recommended videos right here on your screen. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by going to my website, which is nicotina.net, and there are memberships available under DreArea Sports.